Lewandowski.
April 20th, 2010 was a catastrophe in the Gulf. Does anyone remember what that was? Deepwater Horizon. Do you recall that? What happened in Deepwater Horizon that made it such a disaster? Does anyone know?
Loss of life.
Oil was loss of life, yeah, loss of nature, loss of birds, loss of life.
Oil in the ocean.
But oil in the ocean. Yeah, what happened was a failure to have non-elastomeric flapper valves. Okay, I'm going to tell that's kind of an interesting story. The tubing string, the way an oil rig is built in the Gulf is a thing called tubing string. And the people go out and they set up on the top of the water and they drill down past the surface of the floor of the ocean down and they find oil. Now, once you find oil, it's going to come up, right? So you've got to have a methodology to keep oil from spilling all over the ocean. So we do a thing called using tubing string. It's a connection of multiple tubes screwed together that go from deep underground all the way to the rig so they can collect the oil. Well, when it was broken off, at the point at which the oil rig was broken was right at the base. And there was no tubing string and no flapper valves. Now what a flapper valve is like a toilet plunger. You guys remember the toilet plungers? You flush the toilet, it goes, and then it stops. How's that, Billy? You like that? So that flapper valve sets down that toilet. Now, if there's a little bit of toilet leakage, and it's going to just go down the hole and you're going to run a little water, it's irritating, your water bill might be up. But if there's leakage out in the ocean, that leakage is oil and it spills all over. So what happens in a tubing string is that they'll screw down a tube down in the hole, and then at certain points in the tube, they put a flapper valve, a valve, that if there's any pressure break, the valve slams shut, okay, and it holds the oil in. Now, that valve slams so hard that it crinkles the tubing string. It ripples it, and so if you have any leak and that valve slams, you got to replace the entire thing. But it's a safety mechanism to save lives, to save fish, to save birds, to save mammals, to save the ocean. I worked years ago, my very first job, when I finished my PhD in creativity, I worked in an engineering firm at Baker Oil Tools. And they made flapper valves. And I had no idea what a flapper valve was. And flapper valves are not sexy. This is not going to be a great fun story where we change the world, right? This is not the Tower of Terror. I've never done anything that exciting. But I have helped with flapper valves. The thing is that when you drill for oil, you don't know if it's sweet crude or sour crude. And the difference is the acidic level in the oil. And really acidic oil would be moving up and down that tubing string and it wears out the rubber seal on the flapper valve. So the big question was, how can we create a flapper valve that doesn't have elastomeric, or how can we make that elastomeric handle sour crude? So we got together in teams of people, engineers, operators, manufacturing people, and metallurgists. And we sat and thought about it and worked on it. We did a team-based approach to creativity. I believe, before I finish this story, is that innovation is absolutely two things. It's creativity put to action. And we're going to talk about this today. So we took a group of people and we put them in a room and we started applying different tools to make people more creative. Now last night I was at dinner. Was Perry in here? Perry and I went to dinner up on the hill. Actually, before dinner, we went for a cocktail and met a couple of people. And this guy grilled me about innovation and creativity. And he was asking, do I think you can make people innovative? I said, absolutely. And he said, do you think you can make people creative? And I said, I know I can. Because every person in this room, every one of us is creative. But if I can apply some tools to you and give you techniques to come up with more creative ideas, then you're going to be more creative. And then if we can apply those creative ideas and put them into action, that is innovation. So let me finish the flapper valve. So we sat in a group, and there were, just like anybody, there's a group, especially engineers, there's some real stinkers. Kind of like nurses. And I know some of you are nurses. And you know, have you ever said, I have met the enemy and it is me? Okay, so the engineers are tough people to work with. We developed a non-elastomeric flapper valve. So it slams shut at 20 parts per million leakage for 1 second. That's the equivalent of a thimble of oil that goes to the ocean. We went from 3rd place in the industry sector behind Halliburton and Schlumberger to number 1 in the industry sector and won the Deming Award for quality. And it wasn't because of some fabulous, wonderful, awesome anything. And it wasn't because of any consultant. It was simply the right people in a room using creative techniques to generate more ideas and then put them into action. That, my friends, is innovation. Every year we've talked about creativity, and I love talking about creativity. It's my favorite thing in the world. The challenge is whenever you and I are done, we've talked about this much of the entire world of creativity, and we haven't talked about enough. So the team, we were in Dallas at NHPCO, and we were talking about what we're going to do in the show, and it dawned on me. What we need is a book for you that helps you learn to go through the creativity process with your teams to deploy more creative and innovative tools within your hospice. If your margin is 8%, then and you've got to create efficiencies, okay, you've got to increase productivity by becoming more efficient. You're going to need creative approaches to that. And no consultant that I know of, no consultant can come into your company and do much more than motivate you, to rally you. What we really need to build within your organization is a creative process, an innovative process that works time and time and time again. And it's not massive changes that will save the world, it's little bitty changes. You know, when I was writing this book in that Dallas at the Gaylord, I was writing that book and I was trying to think, and I looked out over the courtyard. You know, some of those rooms look out over an interior courtyard. And I watched this Hispanic gentleman work on these flowers. And he was trimming off the dead and putting them in his pocket. He was moving the gravel around. Have you ever been to that facility? And he's moving the gravel around. He goes to the next flower and he's trimming and he's pulling, he's tucking, and he's moving the gravel and he's bringing the gravel and the dirt around. And when he was done, it was magnificent. Now, who would have ever said that was anything fabulous? But if you've ever walked into the Gaylord and you're like, this is magnificent. See, creativity is really about not one massive, unbelievable, earth-shattering change. It's about little bitty iterative adjustments over time that make your hospice, your organization, outstanding. So what I decided to do is I left the show and I went up to the room and I just started writing. And I decided what I really want to do for you and for our industry is to create a workbook, a guidebook, not a workbook, because I don't want it to be like everything. I want it to be a guidebook in which we walk together through the innovative process. And then I decided, no, it's really not the innovative process. It's your personal innovative process, because everybody's different. You're all very unique, made very different and unique. And your agencies, your hospice, they're all unique. What makes this industry so cool and so frustrating is everybody does it differently. You know, you got a set of guides and rules, but the way that you apply that make you very, very unique. So we've done some real hard work. This book came out, I finished all the content in December. It went to publication in January. You're the very first people, other than my wife, to ever see the book. Okay, so we're going to get it out here in just a minute. Now, you might find a couple of mistakes because we had some deadlines. Okay, and it's not meant to be everything. It's meant to be a guide. Now, last thing I'll say before, and I will show you this in just a minute. There are certain things that I didn't want to write in it. I didn't want it to be a massive book, and I wanted that to be resources of videos that you could use. So you're going to find in the book a place to go on the sonohs.com website where you can click and watch videos that supplement this material. And when you take your team, when you take your first, what I call a fit team, the first innovative team, when you take the first little group that you're going to handpick and you're going to develop these people, You're going to go online and you're going to click, and every day that you have a meeting, which is once per week, you're going to see one video about a creative technique that's going to help stimulate ideas. See, the challenge with brainstorming is that if we don't apply a technique to the brainstorming for traditional people, you're going to run out of ideas. Now, we had a wonderful speaker here the other day. He happened to be a person that's a professional idea generator. Your team are not professional idea generators. Therefore, we need tools and techniques to stimulate creativity. So you're going to have one video called switching shoes, another video called a postmortem, another video called thinking in opposites, a video about empathy and iteration. You're going to have different videos. So each week, if you decide you want to do this, you're going to go through the process and you show one video and use that as stimulation for new ideas. So I'm really excited about it, and I can't wait to hear your feedback. This is simply something that we did as an organization as a gift to you. There is no money, there's no cost. This is for you because this is our industry and we love this industry. Okay, so we talked a little bit about deep water rise and how the flapper valve C sits down and it creates very little, and how meaningful that was to the entire industry. What if small little iterative adjustments in your industry change the face of what we do? Wouldn't that be fantastic? What if we could increase profit, decrease cost, or improve productivity by small iterative adjustments? Wouldn't that be amazing? And I really think it's because you are going to lead. Now, I got to go here. This is where we're going to go today. You cannot have an innovative company if you, the leader, are first, if you're not first creative and innovative yourself. As a person, as an individual. So today what we're going to talk about is how you become a more creative person every day. And it's very simple. And some of the things that we'll talk about are a redo for you. There'll be a review, but some of you are brand new. And so I can't go to the creative process without establishing some of the ground rules. So first, in order to be creative, you must first decide, yes, I want to be more creative. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to be more creative. Secondly, you've got to start your day in a more creative way. So let's talk about your day. You ready for this? Here's your day. Your alarm goes off and you reach over and you push that button and you get 9 more minutes. And then your alarm goes off and you reach over and you push that button and you say, yeah, if I really hurried today, I could have 9 more minutes. And then you fall asleep and the alarm goes off. You say, oh my God, I'm 18 minutes late. And you jump out of bed and you're in a rush. And your day is absolutely done. Your creativity is done for the day. For the most part, as soon as you create the word rush, you've lost just about everything in creativity. Because creativity is all about calm and peace. Okay? So let's talk about this just a moment. The perfect way to start a creative day is not to rush through the day. Now, some people, and I agree in this completely, some people say that necessity is the mother of invention. Yes, there are many times in which when you've got necessity and there's tension and pressure, you become very creative. But that's not a daily way to live. So what I want to talk to you about is calm. Every one of you, in order to really truly be creative and innovative, you need time to yourself in the morning to start your day out correctly. What does that look like and why? Here's why. You need time to allow your mind to free think in an environment that creates ideas. Many people say to me, Mark, why do I get the best ideas in the shower? Okay, right? Or why do I get my best ideas when I'm going for a walk? It's simple. Many of you know that the reason that you get your best ideas is that you've got 2 halves of your brain. Now, there's a lot of argument about this, but the reality is there's just years of research and years of personal experience that we have 2 hemispheres of the brain, the left hemisphere and the right brain hemisphere. It's called the hemispheric brain theory. And in the 2 hemispheres, they're tied together right in the middle by the corpus callosum, which allows you connectivity from both sides. Now, for the most part, the right side of your body controls the left side of your brain, and the left side of your body controls the right side of your brain. They're cross-connected. And we know that when we're sitting on our fannies and we're not doing anything with our body, the only thing that's going to get stimulated is the right side of our brain, especially if you're right-handed. Now, the other day I was watching our guest speaker, and he jumped up, and the first thing I noticed is he was left-handed. I thought, okay, that's perfect. Because that tells me a lot that he's very right-brained. As you can tell, that guy's very right-brained. Very creative, very ideas. I don't know that he's got a linear process in his whole entire world, but that's okay. So if you're sitting still with writing with your right hand, you're exercising only the left side of your brain. That's very linear, very structured. When you're telling a story about what happened last week, you're going to tell the story in order. You're using the left side of your brain to do that. But if I ask you to plan with me a party in the future, that did not happen. So now we're going to be using the right side of our brain because we're connecting a party with a date, with a plan, with a campaign, with guests, with food, all the things that you're going to be putting together, right? So your body is absolutely marvelously made to get up and move. That's why you get your best ideas in the shower. You're in the shower, it's not because of the warm water. It's not because of that you're wet or warm or naked. Doesn't matter about that. What matters is really two things. Most of the time when we're in the shower, we're standing and we're scrubbing our hair with both hands, we're washing our bodies, we're moving our bodies. Secondly, when you're in that environment and the water's flowing on, you're not really paying attention. You've done it so many times that you're in auto process thinking. You've just jumped right in from consciously aware what you're doing to a pre-conscious state of mind. There's also a theory about brains, and I believe it completely. It's called the triune brain theory. It says that you think at conscious, pre-conscious, and subconscious levels. Now, I don't want to talk about subconscious level because I'm not that kind of doctor. Tim might be able to help us more about that, but you're not a psychologist either, are you? Are you a therapist? Somewhat, right? Okay, but anyway, we'll move on. So, what we really want, pardon me?
I need a therapist.
Brother, don't we all? You know why? We've been with Perry for a week. I mean, we need a therapist, yes. So when we are thinking about our day and we're consciously focused on a problem, we're in conscious thought. When we get in that shower and the warm water hits us and we start to scrub our mind drops into this level called preconscious thought. And it's at preconscious thought that I want you to live in the morning. That's where I want you to be. Because that's when the worries of the day are not part of your mind. Your mind is playing. It's playful. It's moving. It's going. It's creating. Okay. So you get in the shower. You're getting great ideas. Get out of the shower. What I also want you to think about in the morning is I want you to do two other things. I want you to have a second cup of coffee and I want you to pay attention to flavors. And I want you to occasionally sit in a different chair than your normal chair. Or have your coffee on the back patio. Go for a walk. My wife and I call these walks botanicals, where we go around, we get a glass of wine in the evening, or maybe on the weekend, and we go around and we just look at all the plants and we feel the grass, and we just spend time outside. It's amazing because when you're outside working on your plants or touching your trees, feeling your grass, you're not conscious, you're moving right in that preconscious train of thought. Now, the majority of the time, we've pushed the alarm. Now we're in a rush. We're hurrying in the kitchen. We've got to make breakfast. We've got to feed the kids. We've got to pack the lunch. We've got to get the kids in the car. There's an argument here and there's an argument there. And you're like, come on, everybody get in the car. Oh, the dog, I forgot to feed the dog. So this is not creative at all. And so you get in the car and you rush to drop off the kids. Then you think, oh, I get time to myself. So you turn on the worst thing you can ever do, the news. The news is death to creativity. You know why? It's a constant reminder of what the world is going through, and it doesn't allow you ever to slip into preconscious thought. What I want you to think about doing is find a trigger point on the way to work. Find a spot. We call it a starting point. It's not a stop sign, it's a start sign. Find a start sign that says, at this point right here, I'm going to calm down. I'm going to move over into the right lane. I'm going to slow down. And I'm going to drive to work with my favorite music that's repetitive, not jazz. Now, nothing against jazz, but jazz doesn't have a rhythm, a repetitive nature that allows your brain to get comfortable with it and allow you to slip from conscious to preconscious thought. What you really want is your favorite music that you know so well you don't pay attention to it. So you and I know very well that we go on a long road trip and we've been driving and everybody's finally asleep in the back of the car and you get to finally drive and you've got your music on and it's been an hour and you didn't realize you have not paid attention to anything. How did you get from here to there for 60 miles at 80 miles an hour not running into things? Because you weren't even paying attention. Your brain is on auto process thinking. You're at preconscious thought. That's when creativity occurs. But it doesn't happen if you're speeding. Because if you're speeding, if you're in a rush, if you're honking, if you're angry, get over. Where's the cops? Oh shit, there was no cop. Good, there was no cop. He didn't see me. I'm glad he pulled you over and not me and you drive on by. So this is exactly what, isn't that what happens? So stop speeding to work. It's ruining the best part of your day. So what we want to do is we want to think about being calm and being present. I use something every day, and I really hesitated sharing this with you because I read it twice in the back and I started to cry, and I cry ugly. So this is my journal. And my oldest son Jacob gave me a journal a couple of years ago called the 5-Minute Journal. The 5-Minute Journal, and it's changed my life. It's amazing. Because what it does, it allows me to set my thinking in the right direction at the beginning of the day. I set my thinking purposefully in one direction, and it's amazing. You know, when I come into work, I'm a really happy person in the morning, right?
Yes.
I'm really happy. And I have Grumpy Joe at work. We have a guy named Joe. He's just as grumpy. I mean, and so I've been working on him. I'm like, good morning, Joe. How are you? All right. You know, he's Eeyore. You know Eeyore? Oh, Eeyore. So I've got him saying, so now I say, hi, Joe. How you doing? He's like, pretty good. I'm like, that's fantastic, Joe. Isn't it great? I mean, I love that. So anyway, I start my day with a little journal. And so I just write down, and what I try to do based on the 5-minute journal, and I really recommend that. The 5-minute journal asks you only to spend 5 minutes, but asks you to do it for 30 days. And at the end of the 30 days, reward yourself with something. Like for me, it was a new putter. Like I need another putter, right, Jordan? Jordan, how many putters do I have?
At least 30.
Thank you. So I reward myself with a new putter, and if you don't do it, you have to penalize yourself by doing something you wouldn't do. So I said, if I don't do it, I'm going to give $100 to the School of Business of the University of Tulsa, which is my, enemy school. So anyway, moving on. So at the end of day one, on day 2 of the symposium, I wrote, great day, lots of pressure, shared by many, benefits of all. Seth's leadership, Debbie's energy, Emily's caring, pulled it off. I said, can we finish? Finish strong, stay focused, stay sober, LOL. I really did love that. I was thinking this morning. Then this morning early, I wrote these things, and I hope I can get through them because I tried twice in the back, because it was called For Them. I said, these special people deserve...
Can you get us okay?
You can do it?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay. The biggest challenge is, can I read Mark's writing? It says, for them. These special people deserve my very best. They are the reason for SONO. They are the warriors on the front line. And I'm the cook, the maintenance crew, the guard. Today is about them. Do everything to advance their cause and not your own. Focus on your focus on your guests, and you will get to be a very small part of their special world.
Sorry about that. I in no way thought I was going to share that, but that was really earlier this morning.
Thank you.
Paul's not here. Do not tell Paul.
Paul's Kleenex.
I'm the mean guy in our company. So, you do something really, really special, and we get to be a very little part of it. And this thing is really, the one thing I didn't want this to ever be about was about us. It doesn't work if it's about us. These people, Billy Hall, Jordan Seth, Paul Hagen, these people that are partners, Where's Amanda? Is Amanda here? So these are people that only care about this being a very special event. You know, there's nothing to this except, you know, care. We hope, you know, you hope as a vendor that people will see your heart and that by nature they'll want to do business with you, and that's a different matter altogether. But, you know, this is really a special time, and I wanted this to be by you. So I got to figure out where the heck I was in my presentation. Oh, yeah. So in the morning. So here's the thing. So you get to the office, you haven't been speeding. Now, you've moved over to the right lane. And you move over to the right lane, you slow down, you've got good music on, you've dropped in, you've got a favorite cup of coffee, you're sipping. Your mind is naturally going to think it's coming up with ideas. But how many of you have ever said, I had a great idea, and I can't remember what it was, but it was fabulous? Okay, why does that happen? Because your great idea occurred not in your conscious thought, but in your pre-conscious thought. And for a very short period of time, you pop back up to conscious and you said, that was a great idea, I've got to remember it. So what do we normally do when we pull in the office? We normally pull in the office, we look at our watch, and we like, if I get in right now, I can get this, this, and that done, I can see this person, I can do this thing, and you've lost all your ideas. So what you got to do when you pull into that space is you've got to pull in, put it in park, leave it running, reach over and grab your tablet. You got notes on your phone, or you got a tablet, a piece of paper. You can do anything. You got to write it, and you've got to write your ideas down right now, or they're going to be gone. I promise you. You know, you shake it. If you don't write it now, by the time noon comes and you have 73 problems and this, that, and people have called, there's been interruptions and chaos, all of a sudden you've forgotten, because chaos is your enemy. Peace is your friend, chaos is your enemy. So the way to work can be incredibly powerful, especially like for me, I journal so I can point myself in the right direction, know exactly what I want to go and what I want to achieve in a given day. And really, for me, it's more about what I want to be about as a person. Not necessarily, it's not a to-do list. Your journal's not a to-do list. It's about who you are, who you're going to be as a person. Are you going to say something nice to another person? Or are you going to be gentle? In the book, you'll see that saying positive words to other people is absolutely important to creativity. Mm-hmm. Negative people are not very creative. Engineers are really smart, and they know their trade. But many engineers have a glass half empty mentality. It's very difficult for a person like that to be creative. So, talking about creativity, put to action. So I want to move on just a little bit about that. Real quick. How many? Oh, okay. So we talked a second about that the left side of your brain is very scientific, action-oriented, linear, direct, controlled. The right side of your brain, very artistic, vertical, spatial, intuitive. If you can get up in the morning and go for a walk, that's going to be amazing. Why? Because every time you're using right brain, left brain, your right side of your body, left side of your body, you're stimulating, you're cross-connecting, and you're bringing two separate universes together through the corpus callosum. You're going to get great ideas. Now, how many of you have done this with me, where you tested your creativity? Okay, we're going to do it real quick. Are you ready? Everybody, I'm going to determine whether you're left brain or right brain right now. For most of you, you can do it with just a couple of very simple things. Now, what I want you to do is, I want you to either give me a check mark, and you can just do a little tickers. You don't have to do this exactly. But I want to do a little check mark. Every time that your left side of your body or right side, I want you to make a tick mark on the right side or the left side. Okay, you ready? So everybody take your hands like this, wiggle them like this. Now put them together. Which thumb is on top? Okay, now put one, if it was right, put one tick mark on the right. Like make an R and an L, and then just make tick marks. Okay? Very good. Are you right-handed or left-handed? Okay, go ahead and put one down. Now, turn to a friend and wink. Oh, yeah, that's easy for you. All right.
Not so easy for you.
Okay, now find that same friend. I want you to smile really big, and I want your friend to look at you. One side of your face goes up further than the other. Your smile is not perfectly even. Okay, everybody, put your hands up like this. Hands up like this. Now cross them. If you have a watch on, if the watch is up on top or is on bottom, which wrist is on top? Left or right?
Put your arms like
Okay,
this.
I'm going to roll a soccer ball too. You're going to run and kick it. What foot?
Right.
Okay, go ahead and put that down. Now, we're going to cross legs. Go ahead and cross your legs and tell me, do them both ways. Tell me which one's most comfortable. You're going to have to pick one.
If you can do both equally, that's
Okay,
concern.
everybody look right here at me. I want your eyes right here. Yesterday, what did you wear? Now, what I want you to do is pay attention. I'm going to ask you another question. I want you to pay attention to where your eyes naturally want to drift. Where do your eyes want to go? You know, I was here listening to Greg Werner the other day. He was talking about, he said, in his presentation, he said, I asked them a question. Remember the question, Greg? Is like, who is it that I can help you with today? And then you pause and you're silent, and then you wait for their eyes, right? And you said, if their eyes look up, you got them. The reality is, their eyes will look up, but they won't look straight up. They're going to look one side or the other. Okay? So what I want you to do is pay attention to which way your eyes go today. All right, let's see. Question is, Saturday morning, this last week, what did you have for breakfast? Now, which way did your eyes naturally want to move? Which direction? Okay, put that down. Okay, now imagine, if you will, at the top, right here at the page. This up there, there's the clock, it says 3 o'clock. Okay, and it's an old analog clock like we had in school. So it's not digital, it's analog, and it says 3 o'clock. Now, take your thumbs, and you're gonna replicate in just a minute. You're gonna put your thumbs up, and you're gonna replicate the hour hand and the minute hand. But you're gonna do it with your eyes closed. Ready? Stick them up. Do it.
Wait, 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock. Okay, which hand is on the 3? Okay, put that down. And then finally, take your thumb like this. Take your thumb like this. Lift it up and block out my nose with your thumb. Both eyes open. Block out my nose with your thumb. Both eyes open. Now, close one eye at a time and find out which is your dominant eye. Only one eye's over to the side, not doing a doggone thing. Which is your dominant eye? Okay, put that down. Now go ahead and you've done 10. Go ahead and do your tally. Okay? How many of you are right side of your body dominant? Raise your hand. Okay? Now, keep your hands up. All right? How many of you are 6? How many of you got 6? Okay, well, put your hands down. How many, wave at me if you had 6 right side. Okay? Raise your hand if you have 7 right side. Raise your hand if you have 8 right side. Any 9s? 1 9? Wow. Any 10s? Okay, now let's go to the left side. Okay, left side of your body. How many left sides? Okay, just a handful. How many of you are 6s? 7s? 8s? Okay, 9s? So, now remember, if you're right side of your body dominant, that makes you left-brained because your right side cross-connects with the left side of your brain. So those of you that are left-brained are going to be mostly scientific, action-oriented, very linear thinking, very direct, very controlled. You are really good at process. In fact, most of you really love the whole thoughts of process. Okay? Those of you who are right side of your brain, you're left body dominant, you're right brainers. You're very artistic, verbal, very comfortable with spatial considerations, intuitive, excited. You're the dreamers. Yes?
What happens if you're straight down the middle?
Oh, I love that you asked that. Will you stand up just a moment, please? Anybody 50-50? Stand up now. Stand up. Take both your thumbs, stick them straight out here. Now bend your arms forward like this and put them under your nose and check your nostril dominance. I'm just kidding. Really? Thank you. That is fabulous. Perfect time.
Hey, there's something on your phone,
So,
Kathy.
all right, the reality is that our brains aren't exactly scientific like this. There are different times where you'll have different types of dominance. But the truth is that if you're 50-50, that means you do cross over. You're pretty good in linear process thinking, and you've got good artistic and creative sides. It's the people that are heavy one side or the other that really struggle with the other side of the equation. Now, the reality is, we just passed New Year's Eve, and I haven't talked to you. This is the first time I'll talk about it. We just passed New Year's, and people have New Year's resolutions. I'm not a big advocate of New Year's resolutions because it's usually about stopping something. I think as business leaders, when you look at a new year, you look at two things. Really, start with two things. You sit down by yourself and you take a very strong look at your real strengths. And you write them down by yourself. And you try to be real honest with yourself. What are my strengths? And you don't try to be overly humble or overly sensitive to yourself. You just write them down. This is what I do well that has made me successful. And the reason you do that is because you don't want to forego those things. Do not give up focusing on what makes you really good. Now, next, we look at our weaknesses. What are my true weaknesses? What is it that I do weak? What am I weak? Where's my weak points? Where do I fail? And then instead of beating yourself up, what you do is you find ways to support your weaknesses. Here's Emily, right here. Emily's my executive assistant, and she's way beyond that. And she and I are opposites in many ways. Emily and I work well because she supports my weaknesses and helps me to leverage my strengths. So one of my strengths, are I'll be honest, what I think of my strength is, my strengths are ideas and communicating ideas in a very simple way. There are a lot of people that overly sophisticate their ideas. I try to break them down into little pieces that you can do tomorrow. So Emily helps me to use my strengths at their highest level. I don't focus so much on my weaknesses that I've minimized my strengths. That doesn't work, okay? I have a mirror, and that's clearly defined in the book. I'm going to talk to you about a mirror. A mirror is very important to you. Do you have somebody in your life that holds a mirror up to your face that you trust to tell you the truth about yourself, to be honest about you in love, and they're not a competitor? A competitor could be a family member that really doesn't want you to be that successful. A competitor could be a friend who always wants to be better than you. That's not what I want. I want somebody that really believes in your mission, your vision, what you're all about, but they'll hold a mirror up to your face and say, did you do this? You said you were going to do it. Did you do it? I'm holding you accountable to your word. I have a mirror. It's very important. My mirror actually approached me with the concept of a mirror, saying, do you have it? And I said, no, I really don't. I think I'd scare off too many people. So will you be my mirror? So I have a mirror, and it's Seth. It's actually my son, who holds me accountable to what I said I would do, including getting this book done. Okay, we're going to talk about that. So we start our day on purpose. Get up early and don't rush. Journal. Leave negative influences to the end of the day, like the national news. Slow your drive down. Use music to allow preconscious thought. Pay attention to your thoughts and write those down. This is very simple. There's no massive theory or science to this. Just simply start out your day. Try to get up 15, 20, or 30 minutes early and just be better today. Just be better for yourself. The application of your creativity is innovation. So what we got to talk about is not just how we can come up with creative ideas, but how we can put those ideas into action. Now that becomes a real challenge within an organization because you're going to be bringing in other people. I'm going to skip over a whole bunch of items because we got to talk a little bit about what's in the content of the book, and I hope you'll go through it. The idea is that you're going to start out becoming a more creative person over about a month period of time. And when you've gotten into habits of generating a lot of ideas, you're going to get really excited. Part of the homework is in being a self-motivated creative person is to find other creative books that you are excited about and you'll read. to know more about yourself by studying personality types and traits. Knowing more about who you are is very important, because if I look at your strengths and compare them to mine, we could be in competition. Life is not about competition. Creativity is not competition. The reason I want you to know your strengths and your weaknesses is so you can leverage your strengths and shore up your weaknesses. That's all. It's not a competition. I don't want to compete with you over who's got more strengths and who's got fewer weaknesses. But what I want you to do is I want you to know more about yourself. So in the book, you're going to be encouraged to go take things like personality profiles. Learn more about yourself so that you understand yourself. If you understand yourself, you'll do a better job in the morning journaling and saying, I really want to pay attention to other people today. You know, some of us who are very fast-paced driven people, we're not really great listeners. And so if you learn that about yourself, then in your morning journal time, you might say, okay, today I'm really going to focus on listening. I will be a great listener. And you write that down. Now, all of a sudden, that's in your mind. And you're starting out your day saying, I'm going to be a better listener. So becoming a better creative person is not all about idea generation. It's about being a more creative, innovative, idea-friendly person as an individual. You've got to start, it's got to be about you first. You cannot take creativity to a team if you are not first creative. And you're all creative, but we just want to learn to work that process. Okay, so in the beginning, you're going to handpick the right people, because these are the people that you will break off from your first team that will start other small teams. And what we're talking about is slight iterative adjustments in processes. We're not talking about having a team say, we really need a new location in San Diego. We've spent 3 weeks and all this time and money planning a new location in San Diego. The other thing that people get freaked out about is they say, well, do you know how busy we are? And yes, I do. So we're talking about 20-minute meetings once a week. We're talking about small iterative adjustments to their processes where they touch. Things that those people touch on a daily basis. You're not asking your marketing team to fix the finance because they don't like the budget. You're not asking your caregivers to talk about the HR because they don't like the benefits. That's not what we're doing here. It's all about small iterative adjustments to the workflow process. Okay? Spend time building your team before you start. So we're going to build the initial first team before we get started. We're going to control the so-called experts. They stifle creativity. In the video, I'm going to talk to you about in the book, I'm going to talk to you and I'll say, you need to go on now and watch a video on how to handle difficult people. Because difficult people are a pain in the butt, but for the most part, difficult people don't know they're being a pain in the butt. They're busy defending what they believe is right. And they're adamant about it. Okay? So what you're going to do is figure a way to communicate with them. Some of these people are really good people. And what you want to do is tweak that behavior. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So we'll have a video that supports controlling the experts. The goal is smart action, which outperforms smart talk. So by smart action, I mean I'm going to give you tools every week that give you a trigger to kickstart more ideas. All right? Find the know-it-all and remove it from the equation. One of the toughest things in the book is going to be your initial fit team, that first innovative team you got called fit. You're going to find somebody that's not ready to be a leader, or maybe they're just too much about themselves, and you're going to have the courage to say not no, but not yet, and have the appreciation for that person to tell them the truth. I don't think you're ready yet. I want you to sit and get me. Here's why you're not ready. This is a big deal. The movement toward success is what should be rewarded. Do not reward the finish line. Reward the process, because innovation is never finished. If you reward finish, people are only going to be focused on getting something done. But what if an innovative process is, okay, what if retention of your referral sources is right now 60%, and you want to move it to 63, 65, 66, 69, 70? What if your innovative adjustments can't be done in a short period of time? You need to reward the process, not the outcome. So reward the process, because if you reward the process, everyone will want to be involved, and they'll focus on the process. We are too eager to finish everything, and yet a lot of the stuff we do won't ever be finished. Especially in as dynamic an industry as the one we serve, things are always changing. So you might get to the finish line, and the finish line's been changed. It's been moved. Okay, so be sure to reward the process. Great movement needs great people. You got to pull the right people on. Be very careful and strategic about who you pick. Rewards, we don't do financial rewards in this kind of innovative process. It's the wrong motivator. The right motivator is celebrations and cupcakes. Cupcakes, high fives and handshakes are great celebrations. Make sure that we reward the right thing. So you could go in 3 different places to get access to the videos. Okay, you can. Where I want you to go is sonohs.com. When you go to SONO, it's going to be a bar there. You're going to click, and just so we know who you are, you're going to log in, your name, your email, that kind of stuff, and then you have access, open access to the videos. Go through, as you read through the book, there's going to be a pause strategically where it says, go to this video. You'll go on, and that video will be there. And these are real short. Remember, I told you that I understand how important time is in the hospice. It's critical. So I'm trying to give you a 3-minute at max video describing a technique, and then what you're going to do in your team, in your group meetings, is talk about that technique. So like switching shoes is the concept of getting in the shoes of your customer and really experiencing life from their perspective. Because you know the reality is we see life from our own perspective. As a hospice organization, not as a client. As a vendor, not as a hospice. So if I'm going to do a good job as a vendor to you, I've got to get in your shoes and try to understand your problems and your challenges, or I'm not a very good partner. Okay? You'll find that the book is all about this transformation, this creative transformation model. It starts with you, then we address your culture, then we go to your employees, and then we look at workflow. Okay? We're creative in the workflow, or we ask your creative teams to consider workflow. Then we talk about outcomes, because what you measure, you will get. So if you're not measuring the right things, you're going to get the unintended consequences of measuring the wrong things, is you're getting results you don't want. So we'll be talking about outcomes. I have a whole section about vendors, and I touched on this the other day. If you've got a creative transformation process where you're truly trying to be innovative and your vendors won't come along with you, that's bad. You cannot allow your vendors to be a hindrance to your innovation. That's not fair. They serve you, not the other way around. Okay? Then finally, we're going to talk about your reputation. Now, most of us do a terrible job with public relations. We don't promote ourselves well. We hope and we pray that the world will see the glory that we're doing and shout from the rooftops. You can tell I grew up in church, right? So you shout from the rooftops about how great you are. The reality is that's not fair to you, and it's not fair to your employees. You have to have a strategic and purposeful public relations approach. If you're going to innovate, which you will, the world needs to know about it. There are 19 brochures on this counter, and you're the one that's innovating. If that's the case, why aren't you calling the newspaper? Why aren't you calling the radio station and being on there? Have you ever read an article in the newspaper and you get to the bottom and it says staff writer, and you're like, who's staff writer? Is that like a college intern and they don't get any publication? You know, when you're a PhD student, you don't get your name on anything. You do all the work and the professor takes all the credit. But then when you finally get that degree, I always thought, maybe that's some intern. You know what I'm talking about. How many articles have you written somebody else took credit for? Okay. So on staff writer, you know what that means? That means you wrote the article and presented to the newspaper and said, here's our story. And they said, this is really well done. I'll change a few words and run it. So when you're looking in the newspaper and it says staff writer, that means somebody had the courage to write their own story and pitch that story to the newspaper. This is what you're going to do. Because your clients, your referral sources, your employees, your leadership team, if they're going to innovate, you owe them to take it to the market and shout from the top of the mountain about what a great job you're doing. This is not about you bragging. It's about celebrating your employees and your accomplishments as part of what you're doing. Luck is not a strategy. We do not hope and pray that somebody's going to hear our story and go take it to the market just right now. Stories are in the news because somebody purposefully got them to the right people. All right? Now, this is a transformational wheel. What happens when you get past influence? You're going to start all over again. I promise you this time next year, you're going to look at your strengths and your weaknesses from a different perspective. You're going to think, okay, I've become much more creative. I'm up early, I'm journaling, I'm taking my time, I'm writing down my ideas. We're using these techniques. Some of this language has become part of our nomenclature within the organization. This is who we are. Now where do we go? This is not the definitive work on creativity. It's not meant to be. In fact, I listed several of my favorite creative books in here because I don't want all the credit. I want you to be a consumer of creativity knowledge. I want you to write me a note and say, I just read this book. Did you read it? It's awesome. Not everything. You're not going to love everything. I mean, the first book, I still have all my creativity books. I loved them. But I didn't love every one of them. But there are certain chapters. Some books that I really didn't like, there were certain components I'll never forget. These components were excellent. So try to judge the breadth of the work, not one particular piece. I'll finish with this. My dad has a PhD in theater. And he studied theater all his life. Amazing guy, great human being, master at his craft. I was doing my PhD at Indiana, and I got an assignment by Harry Koblenz, this gray bearded guy whose beard grew all the way down into his shirt where you couldn't tell, you know the type, hair everywhere. And he said, Mark, I would like you to, And so, he said, they were talking about this play that went on called Carousel. And he said, no, it was Showboat. He said, Showboat's playing at this house, and people protested that the African American community was showcased as a negative influence in that. I want you to write a paper on it and come back and talk to everybody about it. So I called my dad, and I said, Dad, what do you think? He said, well, think about The Raisin in the Sun, where the African American people in the show are the stars of the show, and the other people are portrayed as, so you don't judge a theater by one play. You judge a theater by the season. So when you're looking at creativity works, don't be afraid to go outside of some of your normal thinking. For those of us that are very conservative Christians, Stanford University writes some of the best creative stuff, but man, it is liberal. And I love it. I taught creative thinking at Oral Roberts for 15 years, and I used Stanford's book. And I had to say, don't read these chapters. Wink, wink. Now, if you want to read them, you can. But if I tell you to read them, I'm fired. So they wouldn't fire me. I kept trying to get fired, but it never worked. Okay, so consider the breadth of it. So I am really excited. Now, I'm going to give you this. It's called Thinking Reimagined. And so the idea is, I want you to reimagine your thinking process. I want you to rethink how you think. Right now, your thinking is it's too much on chaos. I want it to be on peace. Okay? So everybody gets one of these. If you need more of them, you need to send us an email if you want to take your team through it. We'll talk about getting books out to you, but this is really a gift to all of you. Okay?
Mark,
Does anybody have yes?
I have one. I want mine signed. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah.
Can we set you up out there? Come on.
Oh, what
Yeah.
value
I
is
saw a
it
guy
when
get
you sign
some book
this?
signed the other day.
Yeah.
Would you do it? All right, we want it. Am I the only one? No.
Oh my goodness.